this situation has gotten completely out of hand. I have been toying with Gary Trent's possible free agent market for a long time now. And I was always scared of undervaluing him too far because he's coming off a contract where he's making $18 million. There were talks of him getting mid to low $20 million per year contracts last summer. So I've always been scared of actually truly evaluating Gary Trent honestly. But even in my most pessimistic view from Gary Trent's perspective as to what his next contract might look like, his market right now is way lower than even those lowest of expectations, and it's looking bad for him. We are back at it again on Amateur Hour Clips, where we continue to provide you with Toronto Raptors news coverage and analysis. But over on this channel, we take the best highlights and segments from the main channel, Amateur Hour Sports, where we do live streams covering the Raptors even further and put them on this channel to make it a whole lot easier for you to consume the content. If you like what you see from this video today, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're always dropping content over here that you're not going to want to miss out on, especially if you are a Toronto Raptors fan. And also along the way, it really does support the channel if you smash that like button. Now, let's get back to the video. So one of the key free agents for the Raptors right now is Gary Trent Jr. And there's questions about Gary Trent Jr., if the Raptors can keep him, if he's going to return to the team. And it appeared as though originally the Raptors just would not have the space to make it happen. As we've talked about, with the rookies coming in, with the contract going to Emmanuel quickly, it's becoming very difficult to get any free agents, even the ones you're bringing back like Gary Trent Jr., especially because I was considering the market having been set by other shooting guards, like potentially Malik Monk. Malik Monk signed a 4-year, $78 million contract. Gary Trent's not as good as Malik Monk, but that's sort of setting the table for what a player like Trent maybe could make. Maybe in the range of $16, $17, $18 million per year for Gary Trent. That's kind of where I thought his value would be. I even thought, like, look, our team's going to maybe think, here's a guy who's amazing off of wide open threes. He shot 52% on wide open threes last season, but, like 27% on all other threes. But if you're a good team that can get him open, he's going to knock down threes. Now, I can't do anything else. He's horrible at the rim. He's horrible in transition other than shooting open threes in transition. He's a negative defender, but he can hit threes, and that's valuable at the NBA. Would that be enough for a team to give him a short-term deal on $20 million per year? I thought maybe it'd be worth it at some point just to keep Gary Trent, to retain that asset, and that's a tradable contract. But like I said, the situation for Gary Trent has gotten even worse than I would have expected here. Michael Grange of Sportsnet put out a column, if you will, discussing what Gary Trent Jr.'s got a new subscriber. Dave Snow, thank you so much for subscribing. Welcome to the Amateur Hour Army. You subscribe yourself to so much great Raptors content. I really appreciate that. But within this article, there's a discussion about what Gary Trent Jr.'s value is at this point, what the market currently stands, how the market currently stands for Gary Trent Jr. at this point in free agency. And I took a little piece from the article which highlighted what you really need to know. He would seem like an enticing commodity, 25 years old. By the way, that's the same age as Emmanuel Quickley, who is deemed to be a young piece of this growing core. Gary Trent is not. He shot nearly 39% from three on high volume last season. Like I said, 52% on wide open threes. When he's not open, he's horrible. But if he's wide open, he'll make them. And he's the best in the league at making those wide open ones. But that market of $18.6 million does not exist. And there is apparently real doubt that Trent will even be offered a deal for the mid-level exception. So there's doubt he'll even be offered a deal in the range of $12.5 million. Gary Trent's value has plummeted, fallen off the face of the earth. And when he signed with the Raptors 3 years ago, it was a 2+1, 2 years plus one on a player option. My expectation was he's thinking at the end of those 2 years, I'm going to be worth more than this contract. So in 2 years, I'll take my big contract. That didn't materialize. So last season, he takes his player option. And when he took his player option, that in my mind was Gary Trent Jr. betting on himself to enhance his value this season and get a big contract right now. That didn't work out. He kind of bet on himself and he lost. And now the market out there is very slim. So I think Gary Trent at this point, you're recording this July 2nd, 7:26 p.m. Eastern time. I think Gary Trent's really struggling with the market here. And I think what he's going to do is going to get another short-term option, a short-term contract. I don't think he's going to go long-term here. I think he's going to be eyeing the same sort of contract, 2+1, where, okay, now I've really got to put up and earn that big contract. And he still believes in himself to be able to do that. Because look, shooting is a necessary part of the game. He can shoot. There's no question he can shoot. And if he learns to play a little bit of defense, that'll be valuable, even if he can't do anything other than shoot on wide open threes. There's still value in being able to do that. But at this present point for the Raptors, shooting is a necessary part of this team that's lacking. You just signed Scotty Barnes to a monster contract. What you're going to do to get the most out of Scotty Barnes is put shooting around him. Gary Trent, at the very least, can shoot. Now, if he comes back next season, I really don't want him to start over Grady Dick anymore. I think Grady Dick offers more, and I would be more focused on developing Grady Dick than developing Gary Trent. So I was resigned to the fact that, hey, we're going to lose Gary Trent in the offseason. It is what it is. It's kind of a shame. You look back 3.5 years ago, we traded Norman Powell for 3.5 years of Gary Trent, and all we got out of it was a player who was not as good as Norman Powell, who wasn't even that much cheaper than Norman Powell. You know, the Raptors 3.5 seasons ago decided, let's get a guy who's probably going to be cheaper and has development trajectory. It just didn't work out. Gary Trent never really got better, never really developed. If anything, he's regressed a lot this season. So in hindsight's 2020, unfortunate trade. At the time, it made sense to go for a player like this. Again, it hasn't worked out, but he seems to like it in Toronto. So even though I was resigned to the fact that, yeah, he's probably going to be gone at this point, look, if Gary Trent's market is $10 million a season, that's not the worst thing you can do as free agency. That might make sense. Will he take a 2-year, $22 million contract? Because, if so, that's kind of just worth bringing back to the team and continuing to use. The Raptors could be just completely against it, thinking, we don't have a lot of space, and we'd rather not use our space on Trent. We just don't think he offers much. I think Gary Trent's a very frustrating player because of the lack of development in his prime developing years from the age of 22 to 25. He's just the same player. He's the same player who other than other than open threes and being inefficient on contested mid-range shots, he just doesn't do anything on offense. He can't get to the rim. He's horrible at finishing at the rim in transition. So, it's a complicated spot for both parties here, for Trent and the Raptors. Trent's value, even in my most pessimistic view, it's even lower than that. It's even lower than my most pessimistic prediction about what Gary Trent's value will be. So for the Raptors, maybe at this point it is worth it taking a stab and bringing him back. But it was probably a rude awakening for Gary Trent. So maybe you bring him back. Maybe he comes in next season. Maybe he's hungry to prove the doubters wrong. Maybe he's hungry to earn that next big contract. But yeah, it's scary hours in the Gary Trent Jr. camp, represented by Clutch Sports. I mean, they'll try to finesse and fleece and get every penny out of his value, but I just don't know what sort of market is out there for him at this present point. You gotta be able to do something other than shoot. A lot of guys can shoot. They gotta be able to do something else. And Gary Trent kind of fits that category where it's okay, what else are you gonna do for our team? Maybe Darko doesn't want that with the team. Maybe the Raptors can invest elsewhere. Who knows? But the reality is, this is a brutal situation. The Raptors are in a brutal situation, but perhaps Gary Trent situation is even more so. So, hey, get him back on a short-term deal for cheap, if you can, maybe. Let him prove his worth and take it from there. That's what I'd do.